moons have a notorious reputation for bringing endings, but an ending is not always someone leaving or something falling apart. Sometimes it's the moment you can finally see something clearly enough to stop fighting for an outcome that you know is no longer serving you or your higher good. Regardless of what's happening under this full moon, I want you to take this information and use it to remind yourself everything is leading towards something better. On 29th of July, we have a buck moon, a full moon at 6 degrees of Aquarius. This full moon is asking us to emotionally detach. But not because we no longer care. Sometimes detachment is the moment when you finally stop allowing your emotions to distort what you deep down already know. I want you to think of this full moon like having an out-of-body experience. So regardless of the sign, this energy is asking you to step outside one emotionally charged area of your life long enough so you can see the whole picture. This is an almost unusual alchemical full moon because it follows the nurturing, emotionally sensitive Cancer new moon. Cancer energy draws us towards the heart, the feelings, our need for safety, the people and places that feel like home. The Aquarius energy draws us towards the mind, objectivity, individuality, courage to embrace what makes us different. So this full moon is asking, can you become more fully yourself without disconnecting from your heart in the process? Now, Aquarius is the observer of the zodiac. It can stand slightly outside an experience and look at it objectively. This is the paradox of Aquarius. It represents friendship, community, the collective, and our vision for the future. But it can also feel detached, distant, or emotionally unavailable. So this full moon isn't asking you to suppress your emotions, it's asking you to create enough distance to understand them without allowing one emotion to become your entire identity. Because this moon is so closely connected to Pluto in Aquarius, something deeper may be exposed. Pluto reveals what's hidden beneath the surface. But this doesn't mean it has to be something dramatic or a dramatic ending. It can bring a revelation, a profound realization, or one of those powerful downloads that completely changes your perspective. Opposite the full moon, we have the Sun and Jupiter in Leo. So the Leo energy is asking us, who am I? What makes me feel alive? What wants to be expressed through me? And the Aquarius energy is asking us, how does that individual self contribute to something greater? So the shadow of Leo says, I need everyone to see me. The shadow of Aquarius is, I don't need anyone. Obviously, we know that neither is completely true. We need confidence to express our individuality, but we also need connection. We need to honor our hearts without becoming dependent on recognition. And we need to use our mind without detaching from our feelings. As you know, finding that balance is the central theme of this full moon for all of us. Traditionally, July's full moon is called the buck moon because this is the period where the buck's new antlers are growing, and it's a beautiful symbolism. Growth is happening, but growth may require shedding an old identity, an old attachment, or an old vision of the future. Where this full moon is bringing illumination in your house, it completely depends on where Aquarius occupies in your own birth chart. You're going to feel this really strongly if you have important placements close to 6 degrees of Aquarius or around 6 degrees of other fixed signs like Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. I want you to please listen to your rising sign and not your sun sign, because your rising sign, it determines which house of your chart this full moon is activating. Unfortunately, you do need an accurate birth time to look at your rising or ascendant sign. If you know your birth time, you can look at your ascendant or rising sign on astro.com or astro-seek.com. If you don't have your birth time, you can listen to your sun sign, but the reading might not feel as accurate. And I genuinely want you to get the full picture. Apart from listening to the theme that your personal rising sign is going through, I'd also recommend that you listen to a rising sign for your partner or someone close to you, because often full moon and the energy isn't just about how it affects you. It can also have an effect on you based on who you're in close contact with. All the timestamps are below, so let's dive in. Aries rising, the theme for you is, who are you trying to impress? This full moon illuminates your 11th house of friendships, of community, of belonging, and the future you are trying to create. You may suddenly see where you've been performing for acceptance, or you're trying to appear successful or further ahead than you really feel. Perhaps one of your ambitions isn't entirely yours. Maybe it's shaped by comparison, social media, the need to prove yourself, or the hope that reaching a particular milestone is finally going to make people respect you. Friendship or a group dynamic can also become really clear. You may recognize where you've outgrown certain people, certain group dynamics, and where you no longer feel like you're part of a community, or where you've been making yourself feel small to fit in. Alternatively, you might even realize that you've been isolating yourself. Aries is naturally independent, but independence can also become a defense mechanism against needing someone. So this full moon may show you where you may need genuine friendship, collaboration, partnership, not just more self-reliance. So your online community, your professional networks, or wider audience, they could all come into focus. You may receive recognition, experience a shift within a group, or finally start seeing which collaborations are aligned with the future you want, and which ones belong to the old version of you. So the psychological question I want you to sit with is, would you still want this future if no one else was watching? Or would you still choose the same people if you weren't trying so hard to belong? So if you know your birth chart well, tell me in the comments whether you have any planets close to 6 degrees of Aquarius or Taurus, Leo or Scorpio, and what aspects the full moon is making to them. This will show us how personally and how intensely this lunation is affecting you. Taurus rising, the theme for you is when achievement becomes emotional protection. So this full moon is illuminating the house of career, of visibility, reputation, and the identity you present to the whole world. You may be reaching an important professional turning point, or finally admitting that a path you work so hard is no longer working for you. Taurus seeks security through what it's built, maintained, and relied upon. But sometimes your career becomes more than a source of stability. It becomes an emotional protection, a way to feel valuable, respected, and impossible to dismiss. You may have created a highly capable public identity while privately you feel very disconnected from it. Perhaps being respected felt more safer than being vulnerable. Perhaps you become so accustomed to being the dependable one that you no longer know who you are when you're not achieving or producing or holding everything together. I understand this really well. I'm a Taurus sun. This full moon could also bring recognition, increased visibility, the completion of a professional chapter, or a revelation about your wider purpose. You may feel ready to change direction, to leave a role, pursue something more authentic, and allow yourself to be seen in a completely different way. It's also going to illuminate your relationship with authority. Are you waiting for someone powerful to validate you? Are you constantly trying to prove yourself to a parent, to an employer, to an industry that may never give you the recognition you need? Or have you become so identified with being in control that you struggle to receive guidance or support? The 10th house also describes legacy, so you may find yourself asking what you genuinely want to be known for. The emotional cost of remaining loyal to an ambition that you have outgrown. That's going to be impossible to ignore under this full moon. The psychological question I want you to sit with is, are you building a life that you genuinely desire, or the life that makes you feel impossible to dismiss? If you know your birth chart really well, tell me in the comments whether you have any planets close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio, and what aspects this full moon is making to them. This will show us where this lunation is becoming really potent, especially for you. For Gemini rising, the theme is the identity hidden inside your opinions. I'm a Gemini rising too, and this full moon is activating our charts connected to beliefs, truth, spirituality, higher learning, travel, and meaning that we give to our experiences. This is beautiful for us. Gemini rising is naturally curious. We can explore multiple perspectives, change our minds, and hold two seemingly contradictory ideas all at once. Aquarius energy is asking us to look at which one of those ideas have quietly become part of our identity. You may realize that you're no longer defending a belief because it still holds true. You're defending it because admitting it that you have changed could mean losing certainty, authority, or your place within a particular community. Now, this could involve your spiritual, political views, cultural background, education, travel, or the story that you've created around how life is supposed to work. So you might now question a teacher, a mentor, a belief system that once guided you. You may feel compelled to study something new, share your knowledge, teach, publish, speak publicly about an idea that you've previously kept to yourself. Some gem risings, this could coincide with completing a qualification, making a decision about further education, or recognizing a path that you're following belongs to an older version of you. Themes of travel, immigration, cultural identity, or a connection to somewhere beyond your immediate environment, these could all come into focus. You may also feel this intense need to expand your world, or realize that changing your location will not automatically change your beliefs and the emotional patterns you carry with you. This is a space where we search for meaning, but sometimes we tend to use philosophy and spirituality or constant learning to avoid the uncertainty of not knowing. So we tend to collect information without allowing any of it to genuinely transform us. Intellectual freedom, it requires the humility to outgrow our own conclusions. The psychological question I want you to sit with is, what would you have to reconsider if you were no longer trying to be right? And who might you become if you allowed yourself to change your mind? If you know your birth chart really well, tell me in the comments whether you have any planets close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio, and what aspects the full moon is making to any of them. This is going to show us how personally and how intensely this lunation will be affecting you. Cancer rising, the theme for you is understanding the difference between intimacy and entanglement. This is an especially important full moon for you because it arrives just as the North Node moves into Aquarius and begins an approximately 18-month cycle into your 8th house. Whatever is being revealed right now around intimacy, trust, shared finances, emotional entanglement, power, vulnerability, this is introducing a much longer chapter of growth. This full moon isn't necessarily delivering the whole story, but could show you where the story is beginning. So over the next 18 months, you may be asked to become more comfortable receiving support, sharing power, allowing other people to meet you emotionally. You may now need to examine financial or emotional agreements that leave you feeling indebted, controlled, overly responsible. So questions around debts, investments, inheritance, partner's money, or the resources you share with somebody else, these could all become really significant. With the South Node moving through Leo and your 2nd house, part of this journey may be about releasing excessive attachment to self-reliance. So you may be accustomed to creating your own safety, earning your own security, and proving that you don't need anyone. But the 8th house is asking you whether you can depend on another person without losing yourself, because you can and you should. This is not about becoming dependent. It's about learning the difference between healthy interdependence and emotional entanglement. I want you to pay very close attention to what's happening around this full moon. What is disclosed? What becomes emotionally uncomfortable? Where money or power becomes a conversation, and which relationship is asking you to become more honest. These may be early clues about the 8th house related work you are about to embark on. You're going to feel this full moon energy especially strongly if you have a planet or an angle close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, or Scorpio. Tell me in the comments what planet it is and the exact degree, and that will show us how personally this full moon is affecting your individual birth chart. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because I am creating a complete North Node series and how that's affecting every single sign. The psychological question for you is, can you allow somebody else to support you without surrendering your power? And who would you become if you stopped carrying what belongs to somebody else? Leo rising, the theme for you is, are you in love with them or with being chosen? This full moon illuminates your house of relationships, of commitment, of collaboration, and the people you meet as equals. With the Sun and Jupiter moving through your 1st house of self, the tension between your individual identity and your relationships, that's going to be impossible to ignore. You may recognize how much of your confidence has become dependent on another person's attention, admiration, or willingness to commit. Sometimes the desire to be chosen becomes so powerful that you stop asking yourself whether you genuinely choose them. Do you actually want this person? Or do you want the validation of finally being wanted by them? This full moon is going to allow you to see someone differently, someone as they truly are, not as confirmation of your desirability, not as their future potential, and not as the ending you hoped they would give you. For some Leo risings, a relationship could reach a moment of clarity. So you may end up having a honest conversation, define your relationship, deepen a commitment, or finally acknowledge an incompatibility you've been trying to overlook. Listen, full moons don't automatically bring breakups. This could be the culmination of a relationship story. It could mean being exclusive, making a shared decision, or understanding what needs to change for this relationship to continue. This is also not just about romantic relationships. This could be collaboration, a business partnership, a client relationship, or a creative collaboration could also come into focus. The good thing is you're now finally going to see clearly whether the dynamic is genuinely reciprocal, or whether one person receives recognition while the other person is carrying the emotional or practical weight. This house also reveals projection. So a quality you may intensely admire or dislike in someone else may represent a disowned part of you. So the emotionally unavailable person may mirror the part of you that genuinely fears dependence. The person you believe holds all the power may be revealing whether you have handed all of your power to someone else. The lesson isn't to lose yourself completely inside a relationship. This is to discover if you can remain fully yourself while still allowing somebody else to stand beside you as an equal partner. So pay close attention to what comes into focus, what is said, and what becomes impossible to ignore, especially around the full moon, few days before and after. This is an opportunity to see the relationship itself, not the fantasy, not the validation, or the identity that's attached to it. The psychological question I want you to sit with is, if their choice said nothing about your worth, would you still want that relationship? And if you knew you were already worthy, would you choose differently? You will feel this full moon especially strongly if you have a planet or angle close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio. Tell me the planet and the exact degree in the comments below, as well as any aspects this full moon is making to anything in your chart. Let me know and I can help you unpick it in the comments. Virgo rising, the theme for you is when usefulness becomes a survival strategy. This full moon is activating your house of work, health, daily routines, habits that shape your everyday life. Virgo rising can unconsciously learn to earn safety through usefulness and acts of service. You anticipate what needs to be done, become the person everybody else depends on, and maintain control by remaining one step ahead. But hyper-functioning isn't always ambition. You may be exhausted because your nervous system believes that resting will lead to failure. Perhaps you struggle to relax, especially while something else remains unfinished, or you feel guilty when you aren't doing something measurable or productive. So this full moon is going to spotlight a routine that looks disciplined from the outside, but actually is organized completely around fear. Are you working hard because work feels meaningful? Or because slowing down would force you to confront what you have been avoiding? Something within your working life may also reach a point of culmination. This could be a project you've completed, your responsibilities may change, or an imbalance between what you contribute and what you receive that could become impossible to ignore. You may also realize being indispensable has become part of your identity. But when people primarily value you because you're reliable, capable, and accommodating, it can become very difficult to tell whether you're genuinely appreciated or simply convenient. Your physical health may also ask for your attention. This is about your mind and body, your daily habits. So stress, exhaustion, or an unsustainable schedule, they may all become noticeable. It's an invitation for you to notice what your body has been communicating, while your mind has been insisting that you keep going. Some of the themes could be around workplace relationships, division of labor, or ongoing responsibility could come into focus. You may also need to ask for support, establish a boundary, or stop quietly compensating for somebody's lack of effort. Right now, even small changes could matter. Protecting your sleep, changing your schedule, reducing unnecessary obligations, or creating routines that support your nervous system instead of constantly testing it. Rest isn't a reward you receive after you finish a task. It's a biological and emotional requirement. The psychological question I want you to sit with is, who are you when you're not solving, improving, or preventing a problem? And can you believe that you still have value when nobody needs anything from you? You will feel this full moon especially strongly if you have a planet or an angle close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio. Tell me the planet and the exact degree in the comments, as well as any aspects this full moon is making to them. Libra rising, the theme for you is the performance of being desirable. This full moon is illuminating your fifth house of romance, of creativity, pleasure, and self-expression. Now, Libra rising can become highly attuned to what other people find beautiful, interesting, or desirable. But when that awareness becomes excessive, authentic self-expression can quietly turn into performance. So you may be asking, will they like this? Before asking, is this actually me? So in romance, you could recognize that you have been more invested in creating chemistry, being pursued, or maintaining someone else's interest, rather than evaluating whether you're genuinely compatible. So you may be attracted to how desirable someone else makes you feel, rather than to who you actually are. So a romantic situation could absolutely reach a moment of clarity. Feelings may be revealed and attraction could deepen, or you may finally start seeing where you've been performing an idealized version of yourself to remain wanted. Creatively, you may have edited yourself so the real person probably disappeared from the work. So this full moon could bring a creative project to fruition, or this could encourage you to share something more authentic, unconventional, and completely unmistakably yours. The fifth house also rules joy. So you may also realize how much pleasure has become dependent on being witnessed, praised, or chosen. But not everything meaningful needs to be impressive, productive, or publicly validated. So the psychological question I want you to sit with is, what would you create or whom would you desire if you were no longer curating how you were perceived? You're going to feel this full moon really strongly if you have a planet or an angle close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, or Leo. Tell me the planet, its exact degree, and the aspect it's making to the full moon in the comments below, and that way we can unpick how this is personally affecting you. Scorpio rising, the theme for you is the family role you never consciously chose. So this illuminates your fourth house of home, family, childhood, emotional security. Now, a Scorpio rising can become highly aware of what remains unspoken within a family. So you may have learned to read the atmosphere, anticipate emotional shifts, or carry truths that nobody else is willing to acknowledge. But the role you adopted to survive your childhood may still be shaping your adult life. Perhaps you became the strong one, the private one, the peacemaker, or the person responsible for protecting everybody else. So this full moon could reveal the emotional cost of continuing to play that role. Family dynamic may become very clear. A conversation could expose something previously unspoken. Or you may recognize that belonging to your family has required you to hide certain parts of yourself. Practical developments around involving your home, changing your living situation, property, relationship with a parent, they could all reach a turning point. You may move, you may change your environment, or redefine what home and safety means to you. So the fourth house represents private parts of ourselves, the person you are when nobody else is watching. And this full moon is asking whether your inner life is genuinely feeling safe, or whether you have simply become very skilled at containing everything privately. So the psychological question I want you to sit with is, who might you become if you stop playing the role your family needed you to be? You are going to feel this full moon especially strongly if you have a planet or an angle 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio. Tell me the planet, its exact degree, and the aspect the full moon is making to any of them in the comments, and I'll help you unpick it. Sagittarius rising, the theme for you is the story underneath the story. This full moon is activating your house of thoughts, of communication, information, and interpretation. Sagittarius rising naturally searches for larger meaning behind an experience. But sometimes meaning making becomes a way of avoiding a much simpler emotional truth. So you may philosophize about why something happened, analyze somebody's behavior, or keep searching for the perfect explanation. Yet beneath all of that thought may be a feeling you haven't fully allowed yourself to name. This could be hurts, embarrassment, disappointments, or grief. So a conversation, a message, or a piece of information could bring clarity. Or you may realize that repeatedly discussing a situation hasn't helped you resolve it. It has simply kept you emotionally attached to it. Your relationship with a sibling, a neighbor, or someone in your immediate environment, they could all come into focus. Alternatively, this could be about thoughts, writing, teaching, social media, finding the confidence to finally communicate an idea. This full moon may bring information, but the deeper purpose is to expose the narrative. You may never receive the perfect explanation, but you can decide what the experience means for you now. The psychological question I want you to ask is, what feeling are you trying to think your way out of? And what would you change if you simply allowed yourself to feel it? You're going to feel this full moon really strongly, especially if you have a planet or an angle close to 6 degrees in Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio. Tell me in the comments its exact degree and the aspect the full moon is making to any of them, and I'll help you unpick it in the comments. Capricorn rising, the theme for you is when money becomes proof of worth. So this full moon is illuminating your house of money, of security, of possessions, and self-worth. You may have learned early on that respect must be earned through competence, responsibility, and visible results. And because of this, financial security can become psychologically entangled with personal value. You may not simply want more money. You may want what you imagine money is going to prove that you're successful, safe, independent, or finally beyond the judgment of other people. During this time, a financial matter could reach a turning point. This may involve income, pricing, or savings, or a decision about how you use your resources. You could recognize where you've been underestimating your value, or where maintaining the appearance of success has created unnecessary pressure. The second house also represents your values and personal resources. So this full moon could also reveal a skill you haven't fully recognized and encourage you to earn in a different way, or ask whether your current work, it reflects what genuinely matters to you. Financial ambition isn't inherently unhealthy, but no amount of achievement can permanently repair the belief that you must prove your right to feel worthy or secure. The psychological question I want you to ask is, what are you hoping success will finally allow you to believe about yourself? And could you begin believing it even before external proof arrives? Now, you could feel this full moon really strongly, particularly if you have a planet or an angle close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, or Scorpio. Tell me the planet and the exact degree and the aspect it's making to the full moon in the comments below, and I'll let you know how this is playing out for you. Aquarius rising, the theme for you is the identity built around being different. This full moon is activating your first house of self, of identity, of appearance, and self-perception, making it really personal for you. Aquarius rising often develops an identity around being different, independent, or difficult to define. So that difference may be completely authentic, but it can also become protective. If nobody can categorize you, perhaps nobody can control you. And if you remain detached, perhaps nobody can reject the part of you that secretly wants to belong. You may suddenly become aware of the gap between how other people perceive you and how you experience yourself internally. So this could be around changing your appearance, physical direction, personal direction, or the way you present yourself, or reflect on a much deeper internal transformation. Relationships may also act as a mirror during this full moon. Somebody's response to you could reveal where you still depend on external validation, even if your identity is built around appearing as though you don't need it. So with Pluto so close to this in your first house, you may be shedding an identity, that was built through survival or in opposition to other people. So a version of you that once felt protective may now feel limiting. Real freedom isn't simply refusing to conform. It's no longer needing the group to validate your difference. The psychological question I want you to sit with is, who are you when you are no longer defining yourself against somebody else? And what part of you is ready to be seen without an explanation? You're going to feel this full moon really strongly if you have a planet or an angle close to 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio. Tell me the planet, its exact degree, and the aspect it's making to the full moon in the comments below, and I'll let you know how this is personally affecting you. Pisces rising, the theme for you is what you disowned did not disappear. This full moon, it illuminates your 12th house of unconscious, of hidden emotions, endings, and self-sabotaging patterns. You are naturally sensitive, but you may absorb so much emotional information that withdrawing becomes the only way you can process all of it. So the feelings that appeared too painful, unacceptable, or overwhelming may have been pushed somewhere beyond the conscious awareness. But what you disowned has not disappeared. It may have returned through your dreams, through relationship patterns, through anxiety, exhaustion, or the situations you repeatedly find yourself drawn to. Now, this full moon could expose something you have been trying to avoid. And I'm so sorry to say that. This is not to punish you. This is to help you release from its unconscious influence. You may finally understand why you keep repeating a particular pattern, or why something you believed you had moved beyond still carries some kind of emotional charge. You may also need more rest and solitude than usual during this time. An ending, a private realization, or a spiritual breakthrough. This could all take place beneath the surface before you are ready to explain this to anyone else. The 12th house also asks to distinguish between genuine intuition from fair fantasy and projection. Not every feeling is a prediction, but every recurring feeling may be something that's teaching you. Now, the psychological question you need to ask yourself is, what keeps controlling your choices because you have been unwilling to acknowledge that it exists? You're going to feel this full moon really strongly, particularly if you have a planet or an angle 6 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio. Tell me the planet, its exact degree, and the aspects this is making to the full moon in the comments, and I'll help you unpick this. Thank you so much for watching. If you got value out of this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and the notification button so YouTube shows you the upcoming videos, especially the ones that I'm making around North Node and Jupiter transit, and how they are going to affect you. Thank you so much, and bye for now. Be spontaneous and feel the energy and be exciting and all of that good stuff.